acting as chair today. Mark said he might drop in via Zoom, not clear.
Yeah,
and-
I'm here online.
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
Okay, so I call this meeting of the Transportation Advisory Committee to order on Tuesday, June 20th. That's January.
Wow.
It's because it's so cold. January 20th.
I got you in here.
Good job.
9:35 approximately. And let's see, do we have any minutes to approve? I don't think I saw that.
We're gonna do a roll.
We did,
Oh.
okay.
But they have to all be here.
Pardon?
They here.
Oh, that's right, we have to do the roll call. Okay, so now that we all check in,
Alan's here.
Bill? Dan?
Mariana,
Here.
and is Rebecca here?
Mark?
Rebecca, this is Mark. I'm here. Rebecca said she was not be able to make it.
Okay, good, and Nick Pappas, so we're all here. So are there minutes pending that were there? I didn't see any recently.
Nick, Rebecca sent me a note that the minutes she's writing for the 12/9/2025 meeting won't be ready till next time. So there are no minutes that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you. Then moving on, I'm gonna do, let's see, update from Community Development Director Elisa Sandoval on Stantec Assisted Comprehensive Transportation Strategy Development.
Great.
So where are we?
We are. So we are in progress. The consultant team to Stantec is in the process of developing an outline and draft for the actual document report. So that's great. And just an update from the work that was done through the end of the year, December 31st. Was we had 100 attendees at the in-person workshops on November 19th. The online workshop that was available for about a month and a half gathered 229
Wow.
non-unique responses. So that was a good, good turnout on the online workshop survey. They kind of provided me with just some of the highlights of the things that they heard during the public workshops and and feedback provided on the boards. There was a lot of support of establishing a staff role within town government that would be solely focused on transportation planning. I think that we've heard that a lot from different community members and residents. We also heard about investing in a bicycle network focused on connecting commercial locations to neighborhoods. That was a high priority. Creating new off-road trail connections, investing in safer street crossings with traffic calming, creating an on-street bicycle network that connected the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail to the Reformatory Branch. There was support for increased transit use, including advocating for improved MBTA commuter service and better station accessibility, as well as exploring a local transit option. So that was another important feedback from the workshops. People also offered insights on the desire to connect the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail to the middle school, which I know that TAC has heard about as well and supports that. There were also suggestions to improve safety for pedestrians in commercial areas, insights on specific locations with unsafe traffic speeds, cut through unsafe bicycle pedestrian conditions. And there were also, people also offered examples of other regional locations that to look for as examples, such as in Lexington. So that was, we'll hear about that more kind of in the report that they create. So right now, Stantec is exploring incorporating all the feedback that they heard at the workshops and developing the draft report. And they are also really trying to make sure the report layout is easy to read and digest. And kind of we're working on that now. So probably have a draft report in the next couple of months to share with TAC. And then we also do have one other public I guess, a presentation. And whether we want to have that hosted as at a TAC meeting, or should it just be kind of a general presentation? That's something that we can talk about maybe at the next TAC meeting and how like we want to proceed with that. So,
For instance, as a public meeting? Or
it would be a public meeting, but whether it could be like, is it a presentation to TAG that is a public, kind of like
Right.
invite the public to that? Or is it just
Just
like a
publicize.
standalone
Right.
public meeting? You know, I think we're open to both of those ideas, so, yeah.
Good.
So that's my update. on that.
And you, before this meeting, we get the copy of the draft report.
Yes, yes.
And, let's see, and we're expecting, Alan and, Steve to come and talk about this integration with, Stantec when the next meeting or the meeting after.
Yes, we are planning to have Stantec come to the next TAC meeting. That we did have a date in mind for that meeting. Do you remember
No,
what that
don't.
was? I think it might be on my calendar. We are looking at the next TAC meeting to be, let's see,
Oh, there was a question of-
February 17th.
Okay.
Instead of February 10th, because Stantec is available February 17th. And that would be a meeting where they would present the roadway safety ranking
Okay,
in their, you know, kind of how they came up with that and really get feedback from TAC on that.
okay, good,
So February 17th, 9:30.
good, okay. Excuse me. So, any questions?
With this roadway safety ranking, would this be looking at all the roadway construction or specifically safety, the 5 don't?
Specifically safety.
Okay.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay, any other comments? Good, okay. So, moving on, if there are no other comments, review of TAC new charge document draft, okay. So at the holiday, I got confused and didn't get this out in advance of the meeting, so we're just gonna do some reading and talking. So what happened is that, Ellen had volunteered to help me work on something. This is in response to Kerry LaFleur's comment that what was missing from our draft charge so far was anything about, additional skills required, knowledge required, what we're looking for in new members. And, Ellen and I talked about it, and I'm just gonna let you read. Oh, it's not on the screen. I have to share. Hold on. Duh. It'll find Zoom. There we go. Oh, I didn't zoom in. Hold on. I'm just gonna take me a minute. I'm sorry, I didn't log into Zoom on my computer. Here we go. There we go.
I think in order for you to share, we have to make you a co-host, maybe, or no?
Um,
Oh, cause
Oh.
Mark's the host.
Are you able to share?
I don't know yet. I'm still
I'm
trying
not
to
on
get,
here.
I'm,
I'm on this one.
I had forgotten to,
Who's the host, Mark?
The host is actually this computer and Heather. Heather, that's why Heather.
Can you ask Heather?
okay, hold on.
I can make him host when,
Oh,
or co-host
thank you,
as soon as he
Heather.
logs in.
You can just email something to Heather.
Heather is working on in the background on our, we're talking with regards to.
Yeah, that's me coming. into the
Yeah, there
meeting.
you are.
Okay, I'm in the meeting now.
You have to mute.
Whoops, sound.
Mute your PC.
You're co-host now, so you should be able to share.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah,
The little green thing,
the bottom.
the share. The bottom,
Yeah, I know where.
Okay.
Okay. Let's share.
all these ridiculous stuff you need to know. Will your brain be dumb? Yeah. Yeah, nickel knowledge.
Okay, here we
Alright.
go.
There you go. That's
Oh, go away.
good. Make it a little bigger, maybe.
Okay,
Piggy.
yeah, hold on. You got big enough?
Hold on.
Can you see that or not?
Little bigger would be, I think, good. I don't know if you can get rid of the side button, that's
There
good.
you go.
Yeah, that's good. Maybe you can just read it, Nick.
Yeah, I'll read it, and then for anyone having trouble seeing it. It's so, the first part of this is just a statement, observation, basically. Transportation is a complicated topic. It requires dealing with various modes of movement, motor vehicles, bicycles, trains, walking, buses, etc. The infrastructure to support those modes, roads, sidewalks, railways, parking spaces, bus stops, train stations, etc. The places where these modes come into contact with each other, roadways, crosswalks, railway crossings, depots, bus stops, etc. It also includes public safety and the political challenge of funding and the need to communicate clearly with stakeholders about all these issues. And stakeholders is like everybody in town, the governing structure plus the residents. The complexity of the transportation system requires experience working with complex systems. For instance, providing improvements for one mode of transportation will invariably have effects on other modes and on the transportation infrastructure. For example, adding or eliminating on-street parking affects the possibility of adding bicycle lanes to a road. In Concord, improvements in transportation infrastructure also have to take into account considerations of historical preservation and our natural environment. And finally, there is the need to work within realistic financial constraints. So that's sort of the playground for dealing with transportation. So then the ability to understand and articulate the trade-offs and synergies in a complex domain like transportation is a primary skill desired in TAC members. Members of the TAC would ideally have experience in areas such as strategic planning, systems analysis, communication of complex issues, urban planning. So that's as far as I've gone. So that's it. Now, it's obvious what's missing from here is like specific knowledge about bicycles or bicycling or other things like that. Because I just wanted to push this point about systems thinking and about the importance for understanding and dealing with complex situations, because I think it's really the main thing that we bring to the table and what we've developed as a committee over time is that sort of knowledge and appreciation.
Because I think we were talking about, a lot of it had to do with trade-offs, unintended consequences, conflicts, synergies, and we finally kind of decided to move up, but there's all kinds of domain expertise. The one thing is missing is, we said, the domain expertise in specific modes of transportation, like bicycle. And so I thought that the really expertise perhaps could be better phrased as the ability to deal with
Well,
trade-offs.
I actually wrote something about that, but I was holding back.
Oh, okay. Why don't you say that then?
Well, so it is helpful to have
Well, they
members
put
of
that in
of
there.
the TAC who have knowledge and experience in these topics. Oh, I forgot the these. So I cut and pasted this from something else. So these topics refers to things like bicycling or whatever, landscape design, which might be helpful in traffic calming,
Civil engineering.
civil engineering, so things like that. Okay, so it is helpful to have members of the TAC who have knowledge and expertise in these topics as demonstrated by involvement in working on these issues in a professional or serious volunteer capacity. This sort of actual knowledge and experience is distinct from pure advocacy for a form of transportation. And I would hold up Phil as an example of that because of his deep involvement in things like Safe Routes
Yeah.
School, and in other ways in which he has just been more than just a bicycle enthusiast, but involved, and he knows what some of the trade-offs and issues are that come up.
Maybe if that were put in there with the specific in topics such as, and just say what you just said, bicycle.
Right. Yeah, let's put a couple.
Just so
in.
that the
Yeah,
word
so
bicycle is in there.
You
to
had
work up.
another bicycling, what was another one? Bicycling, yeah.
Civil engineering.
Civil engineering, I'm thinking Mariana,
Landscape design.
landscape design. Trying to think what would be pedestrian. I don't know.
Oh, disabilities,
Oh, disability, that's actually disability mobility.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
I think I would use the word accessibility.
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 That's the word.
Thank you, Mariana.
Any others?
I would put in legal and regulatory standards.
Ah,
That's, you know, that's a good point, because that's something that you really bring to the table in terms of the bicycle and DOT.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
also at multiple government levels.
Put that down
because,
at
you know,
multiple government
There,
levels.
there are federal standards and state
Right, yeah,
stuff,
no, yeah.
and then we have. our
Yeah, the
municipal.
manual and uniform traffic.
But put that
control
at several regulatory, what did you say? At several,
Regulatory levels.
yeah. Because it's the conflict between them too,
Sometimes.
So you,
Right,
are you saying add the word levels in here? Or-
at, what did you say, at various
At various,
regulatory levels.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
Issues.
That gives
Um,
Harry then some words to use to discuss with candidates.
mhm.
Oops,
I mean, this whole thing, you know.
What?
I said, this then adds the kind
Yeah.
of specific expertise.
Yeah,
It gives
yeah.
Carrie some words to use to discuss when she's interviewing candidates, or when she's, you know, trying to solicit candidates.
okay, good.
I just want to bring in the interest of walkers.
I was trying to think that, I mean, is it?
That's where I got to accessibility is. the-
Walkers.
Yeah, but
Nature, I mean, it's kind of like, one is recreation, nature,
it's not, I mean,
one is, but safe seniors, oh, like me, you know, not worrying about, you know, breaking your hips.
But I think accessibility covers the needs of regular
it
walkers.
implies disability.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, it does, but if you make it accessible for them, you're certainly making it accessible for
Well, maybe
anyone who's
it's
fully able.
Universal access is one of the terms of just design for everyone, the universal access.
Okay.
universal access and put seniors, families. Students. Seniors, I don't know,
Yeah, I think it's
Well,
too specific.
but universal access, I'm not sure that I would know what that meant, unless you, Mariana, unless there's a way to kind of,
I'm gonna offer, there's a reason why I'm
Do you-
sitting here.
Yeah.
please, my dear.
It is, in my opinion, anything that, you know, all these activities are connected to the health of the community.
I was gonna say public health,
So that's why I started coming to this
maybe
meeting.
put down public
And I'm
health.
involved. So I mean, I'm trying to toot my horn a little bit, but anybody
Mhm.
interested in public health besides me, I also think would have input.
Public health, and can you say safety, or is
Yeah.
that, public health and safety, that I think incorporates a lot of stuff.
But I think, you know, it's not the only, like, just like you're outlining, it's not the only perspective, but through all our public health surveys that we've ever done, or planning surveys, people talk about their health and well-being, transportation, and all these issues come up.
With the economic vitality group, when they had a survey that focus was seniors in safe walking.
Well, when we did a public health needs assessment, safety across the board, whether it's pedestrian,
Yeah,
cycling,
exactly.
you know, in the stress of traffic, all of that came out. But not enough detail to really make a decision.
Would public health, and safety incorporate things like that survey that the economic vitality did?
It's all
Where
connected.
where they talked about the need for ramps and benches?
Yes, accessibility,
Okay, good,
in my opinion. I mean, I'm not the only
okay,
one.
Okay, so I would redo this section here
Okay.
so that
that's good.
it was more coherent.
There's something about compatibility amongst all of these classes.
Well, that's where I think the systems thinking comes in, is this trade-offs and synergies.
Synergies. I mean, it's kind of like conflict, synergies, trade-offs. It's,
The
I'm not sure that,
interactions,
yeah, we can
yeah.
use a lot of words, I'm not sure exactly how to phrase it. But when we were talking, it was like,
Right.
okay, you can it was like, don't optimize one thing, that's kind of was the message.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Or
this is a
rather-
charge, this isn't
Right.
supposed to be.
Right.
Rather than, you know, when, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's not a
and-
process.
not the
it's a
solution.
charge.
Yeah, when everybody thinks that it's not perfect, you probably have a good solution. I mean, that's kind of my philosophy. It's like you have to find something that is the greatest good for the greatest number.
Yeah.
Okay. Any, Mark, you okay with this? Are you, Mark,
this
are you
all sounds
participating visually or just by phone or?
Yeah, let me, I'll make a couple comments. So,
Mm-hmm.
I think this all sounds good. I agree with the systems, as one of the aspects that's very important and good to think about in terms of, what kind of, members, can, help tech. I also like the idea of, saying knowledge of particular, modes of travel. I think that what Dan said about walkers, it's important to get some kind of word in there like safety and connectivity for walkers of all ages and abilities, as well as just the accessibility word, because the accessibility word by itself isn't often used. It's often used narrowly. So whatever languages come up, it ends up being, it's good that it includes children walking and elderly people walking and people of different abilities. I know theoretically it's in there in the accessibility, but the accessibility word often is interpreted more narrowly or in terms of specific ADA compliance, whereas it's related but broader. Otherwise, I think this is a really great discussion, and I am also in favor of the charge having this sufficient amount of explanation of why certain, what the challenges are and how complicated they are, and therefore why, give prospective members an idea of what the committee is dealing with. Thanks.
Okay,
So with accessibility, where does that enter into other than pedestrian accessibility? Kind of a naive question, but
Well, it could be wheelchair, it could be
that's
walkers.
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So
I don't know, is that under
pedestrian-
public health or is that under, where's that, the phrase that we're saying of users of all ages and abilities?
abilities.
That's kind of like the phrase I kind of would love to put someplace.
if you can't come up with it at the moment, what I'm gonna
Okay,
do,
fair
what I'm proposing to do is I'll take this off, I'll bring it back as a formal draft
Mhm.
for discussion and voting, okay? So there'll be another chance at the next meeting to fine tune it or to add a phrase. Or if you think of one before then, let me know and I'll add it in.
Do you wanna just put like a rough, like, notes on walking and then?
Yeah.
That'll trigger somebody's brain to be
I
thinking.
mean, right below
Well-
bicycling, it should have
Walkers
Yeah.
of all,
pedestrian.
pedestrians of all ages and abilities,
Yeah.
Okay, so my mind, bicycling is
a mode.
it's a mode, right? And walking is a mode, and we have advocates for bicycling. But we don't, there's a whole community of people who advocate and articulate the need for better roads and safety for bicyclists.
Pedestrians.
There's
you could
nothing
say-
like that for pedestrians, is there?
Well, no, I mean, it could be people who are nature walkers, people who are the advocates of of trails in town, of like nature trails. There's not, but it doesn't mean that you can have a personal interest and not necessarily be part of a pedestrian group. I don't think you need a group.
So the question is, what's the knowledge or skill that we're looking to tap from this person, and how do you name that thing?
Well, can you, I don't know, maybe put just a parentheses, pedestrians walking of. I don't know, put something in there as a placeholder. You can say walking pedestrian.
I can't have something as a placeholder. I
I
need
do
something to
not.
be in the charge.
I know now, very specific, but just put, if you didn't mind, just put a note, just as they're saying, add a topic around pedestrians.
Okay,
Just put down the bottom note, add a
Yeah,
topic.
it should be up top.
No, I meant that's just a note, so it
Okay.
doesn't feel like it's too unstructured.
So another way of categorizing this is active transportation.
Yeah,
That includes bikes, but that tries to hit
Cover
all
both
of
and
the
pedestrian.
various modes that people use
Yeah.
that are other than mechanized transportation.
That's along the lines what I was thinking, because then there could be something else besides bicycling and walking,
Right.
right?
People scooter.
okay,
elder
I've
scooter.
I've got it. Active transportation, bicycling and walking.
And that's kind of it's a buzz phrase these days.
Yeah,
It's a lot
that's
of-
good. No, I think that does.
A lot of changing of buzz phrases.
so
and-
cars are passive because you just have to push the accelerator.
And active means like you're actually,
You're burning
you're
calories.
burning calories, right?
Yeah, and
Burning
I would-
electrons, listening to you.
got something.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh.
Well,
okay,
no,
let me, I want to, this
Yeah.
is my, I want to mention I want to mention one other thing is that accessibility
Okay,
can also,
hold on.
yeah, sure, go ahead.
This is your default speaker has changed.
Heather, I think we need your help if you're listening.
He's muted.
I'm here. What, I'm sorry, repeat what you need?
The sound went out.
The sound went out. It said the default default audio changed.
I'll be right there.
I'm still hearing you guys fine on Zoom.
I can hear you fine.
Okay.
You're muted.
It's just coming through the owl quit. It's coming through the computer now. It's switched to
Oh,
now the owl's working.
very
Thanks,
important
Heather.
today.
It has been giving us some trouble.
You
Okay.
haven't fed your owl.
And something.
Mariana, can you say something just so we can make sure?
I think it's okay.
Hi, I'm here.
Okay, it's working again. Thank
It's
you.
okay.
So insightful.
Yeah, I don't know if you touched anything like that.
Mark?
Yeah, I would just like to, again, add to accessibility, a slight bit of definition, including for pedestrians of all ages and abilities.
Perfect.
I just, again, certain kind of cover category words mean different things to different people, and it's good to have the word abilities in there, but it's also good to have the word pedestrians and ages. I think the ages is very important because if you think about, 20-year-old, 30-year-olds, you have one sort of safety in mind. If you think about 5-year-olds and 80-year-olds, you have a different type.
Good, okay,
That's good.
okay, good.
Nice.
We've improved it. I think we did it. Thank you.
That's really nice.
Okay, so I'll take this off, I'll edit it and bring it back for a second reading, as they say. And
Send it around to us.
yeah, we'll send it around, good. Okay, so let me just make a note. There was one other thing that Carrie had mentioned in her comments, and that was just about reporting, sort of annual reporting on progress of TAC, which I think is pretty straightforward to add, so I'll just use standard language on that from, I think, probably from the existing charge or something. Okay, switching now, I'll stop the share, if I can figure out how to do that. I do know how, it just takes a couple of steps. Meeting, stop share, here we go. Okay, we're back. And how do I go to the agenda?
Do you want to put your video on?
Yeah, the video is,
What's
we're
going
just
on?
in trouble today, guys. I'm sorry.
Good thing you're here.
I don't know, no, this is really Heather. I don't know.
The cold weather.
Yeah,
Oh.
video it's blank.
Oh,
I
there it
know,
is.
we're
Coming
trying.
back.
We're trying.
There it is.
There you go.
Back.
The owl was being finicky, it think it wants to hibernate. Yes.
Same.
Okay.
It's annoying.
Oh, yeah, okay, so next topic, something I put on since I could grab the chair for one meeting. Which is the topic of speeds, motor vehicle speeds. And this is just intended as a general discussion of people's thoughts. What I've noticed is that when the topic usually comes up in the context of a public safety concern, and cars are going too fast on the street, and we need lower speed limits, or that sort of discussion, or speed bumps or something. And what I sense sometimes is that sometimes some folks just wish all the speed limit was 20 miles an hour everywhere in town, which isn't going to work. And so I don't have a sense that it's sort of complicated. I mean, there are the posted speed limits, there are the bylaws that the town has, and the state has laws about what you can do in terms of posting speed limits. There's the actual practice of the police and the courts, which is, they don't let anything go up to 10 miles an hour over the speed limit in practice. And so it's rather a confusing topic, I think. And I can't tell where people are coming from when they bring it up, because there seems to be the hope that oh, we'll fix the problem if we just change the speed limit. And as if sometimes they have a magic speed limit in the back of their head that they're thinking is the right speed limit for everyone everywhere, or at least in their neighborhood. But I don't know, does anyone have any thoughts or comments on this
Yeah, I
topic?
mean, I think that there's a bunch of stuff. One, I think that we shoot ourselves in the foot by having signs that are conflicting, you know, within a short period of time, within a short distance, the signs, the speed limit goes up and down, up and down, and people just say, forget it. So one is kind of rationalization of the speed signs, and I think the other thing is
So would
that
you call that sort of inconsistency?
inconsistency in posted speed limits along a road. And the other is, I think, you know, it's like I'm not sure signs make a big difference. You know, they're nice, but I think then that something more active, which is either traffic calming, or one of the things that we talked about, and I actually have brought up to our reps, is automated enforcement around the middle school. So there's something, you know, that's the most extreme. It's like there are some places where you really have to have people slow down. And I think the middle school where kids are crossing the street, or that's probably the most dangerous, maybe the high school as well, where there should really be, you know, the option of automated. Rather, I would suggest that would be a great option. So it's kind of like speed limits, posted signs, rationalize them so that people just don't ignore them because they think that it's too confusing, so why bother? And then active traffic calming, speed tables, speed bumps, and then enforcement. You know, we have signs, but they kind of trail off in effectiveness over time. You know, like the thing that says your speed is.
So, I have too much to say about this comment.
Good,
Topic,
good.
so, but I'll start with, one of the reasons why the signs are inconsistent is because the town select board adopted a statute 8 years ago, something like that, chapter 90.
This is the
section-
one that allowed towns to lower.
Reduce the speed
everywhere.
limit to 25 miles an hour in thickly settled areas. So the town adopted that statute, which is why those signs appear all over the town. However, there is another body of law, which you made reference to, which is the town ordinance. It's not really a bylaw or an ordinance, it's a regulation which was adopted by the town, which is in a fairly thick booklet. It's based on this idea of speed zoning.
Mhm.
Speed zoning is like a term of art, which is used in traffic engineering. And the idea was that the speeds would be set at 85% of the speeds that people were actually traveling on the roads. So that's where you get this idea of an 85% rule. Okay, this is a concept that goes back to the late 1940s, and actually goes back to the late 1940s and early 1950s in Concord. So when you look at
Mhm.
this it's not an ordinance, it's a regulation which was adopted by the select board. When you look at it, it tells you when the speed zones were set. And they go back way back to when the land uses were very different in the town. So this is another sort of set of facts on the ground that we're dealing with, because some of the stretches like Old Marlborough Road, for example, I think I agree with Ellen. Thinking about it in connection with middle school is a good idea, but I would just sort of expand the area to maybe the town line with Sudbury and somewhere near the rail trail. So
Yeah.
that's like a 2 mile stretch.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
At
that
least-
one goes up and down several
That's crazy.
times.
right, and that's part of, I think, what makes it very confusing for people, because every 750 or 1,000 feet, the speed limit is different.
Right.
And you don't really know what the speed limit is supposed to be. And then when you get close to the school, it says, this is a school zone, it's supposed to be 20
Right.
miles an hour. And then immediately after that, 100 feet away, there's a sign that has a different speed limit on it.
Mhm.
So it's, what is the speed limit? What are you
Mhm.
supposed to do? So my thinking is, this entire area is sort of uh area of what we do that
Mhm.
has I think over time changed. So when it was first examined in the town and generally in the United States, the idea was uh get cars through the town as efficiently and quickly as possible. So it was motorist convenience.
And it was a rural community then.
Right, and Concord was a rural community, except for the, you know, the villages and the town center. So this goes back to the, you know, late forties, early fifties. And you have cars and trucks going relatively fast in the rural areas. And made sense, I mean, there weren't a lot of people around. Now it's a suburban community, you have a lot of different people on the road. And the whole concept of motorist convenience or trying to, you know, emphasize throughput of motor vehicles has changed. And the emphasis is now on road user safety.
Mhm.
So you have the complete streets idea where you recognize that streets are occupied by various users. You have this idea of trying to control speeds based on safety as opposed to motorist convenience. And when you're thinking about it from the standpoint of safety, the main thing is that there's lots of information that's been developed at the top levels, which say the faster that a motor vehicle goes, the more likely there is going to be a serious injury if there's a collision between a motor vehicle and a bicyclist or a pedestrian.
Right.
Just, you know, if you're going.
Hardly anyone gets killed at 20 miles an hour.
Right.
85% of.
Yeah.
And so the main thing that I learned as a pretend civil engineer way back when in my law career is something called the fudge factor. And this had to do actually with wastewater treatment, but it's equally applicable to traffic management. When you have more ability to react as a motorist,
Oh, yeah.
you can slow down more quickly and avoid an accident or minimize the injury in a collision. So that's the basic rationale is you have more time, you have more ability to react. If you're distracted, you have more ability to react. So that's the whole rationale behind lowering the speed limits to something consistent. So the last thing I'll say is this is a whole area of discussion that's gone on throughout the Commonwealth. And there are some municipalities that have actually, by the governing body, reduced the speed limits throughout the town with exceptions. So like Newburyport's a good example. Newburyport has a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, with the exception of certain defined very large roads at the edge of town, where there's shopping plazas and that type of thing closer to Amesbury. So when you go down High Street, which was the main drag of Newburyport, that's now a 25-mile-an-hour street with, in addition to having the speed limit signs, it's got traffic calming measures. So it's got some speed bumps, it's got, you know, wider shoulders, it's got the knockouts and stuff like that. And that was done, I think about 3 years ago.
If they measured what, aside from that area where they've done the traffic calming, have they measured what the actual speeds are throughout town? to find out?
I think they have, and I can get you some more information. 'Cause
That would be very interesting because I suspect it's not respected outside.
Yeah,
of-
so, and it's,
Nobody drives 25
it-
miles.
yeah, it's controversial and there's been pushback and pushback to the pushback
Right.
and that type of stuff. There's been a lot of discussion of it. And I would say that and both Newburyport and Andover are the examples of towns that have done this town-wide. And the thing that stimulated the action was a traffic accident. In both
Right.
incidences, someone got killed. I'm not sure about Newburyport, but in Andover, a child was killed by a 18-wheeler and a child was in the crosswalk and the 18-wheeler didn't see her. And, someone got killed.
Was it speed related?
It was speed related and distraction related.
Yeah,
And the main thing was that there was advocacy on the part of the parent who was outraged and action was taken, and that's kind of what the stimulating.
What sort of environment did this happen in? What sort of neighborhood or?
It was downtown Andover, so that's a numbered route like Route 62.
Right, it's 28.
28.
Yeah,
I'm not sure whether it's the same as 62 in the sense that was a town road with a number, or it's a state highway at that point in time.
it's more like it's going through Concord Center on 62 is kind of funny, because it's jogs right at the mill dam and all kinds of stuff that's supposed to slow you down, but 28 through Andover is much
It's
straighter.
straight, right, it's straight.
It's a straight shot.
Except that if you think about it, when the Shawshene River's down pretty low.
Yeah.
And there's a big hill that leads you up from the Shawshene up to where Andover sits on the hill. And there's a intersection where this happened, where there's like 5 different roads coming together
Yeah,
at one spot. It's pretty confusing. And I think that's where this incident happened.
There's a-
But that,
there's a
that's getting
pedestrian
too
or
far down
cyclist
into
or
the weeds. I think.
pedestrian or cyclist, someone vulnerable like that, not a car driver that was killed.
It was a pedestrian, it was a kid, a little
Yeah.
kid,
Okay,
So
who
do-
got killed in a crosswalk. And I'm not saying that there was a crime committed, but I'm saying this is just what got people going in terms of the politics of it and in terms of the town's reaction to it.
besides
Yeah.
traffic calming, was there any enforcement? Tickets, things like that you know about?
In those incidences?
No, in either Newbury Court or Andover, like, was traffic calming, they felt that was enough, or did they supplement?
I don't know, but
Okay, all
I
right.
could find out.
That'd be
those.
great to know.
It would- to me, the most telling thing would be if there are actual numbers that said how fast people were
Yeah.
going in various neighborhoods
Yeah,
since they've
and
done this.
And that's certainly part of it, because the discussion, and maybe this goes into the piece that you were writing, is the enforcement piece is a big piece of this.
Yeah.
And the ability of the town to pay for enforcement and to have the sufficient staff and that type of stuff is an element to making it all.
I think the part of enforcement that would work is what Ellen suggested, which is in locations where there's a particularly vulnerable population, whether it's school children or seniors or whoever. If you actually had automatic enforcement,
So
that would make a difference.
I can talk to,
I mean, it's a political issue. I know
It's a
it's a
political
dangerous one, but
maybe I talked to Robbie, who's Carmen Gentile's admin.
Mhm.
And I think you talked to him as well.
Yeah.
And so I asked him, what is the rules for automated enforcement? He implied that it had something to do with population.
there is none allowed in the state.
It's not allowed in the state.
Okay, he had wrong then, okay.
Yeah,
It's not.
but
allowed.
Not
I think
currently
it's up
allowed.
at the legislature now in their
Yes,
discussing.
it's some,
And there's a lot of
they
that.
discuss hundreds of things. every day.
Okay,
So one thing I'd like, this is an interesting observation in a neighboring town. I live at the end of Monument Street, and for various personal reasons, I frequently drive through Carlisle Center. Now, until recently, if you were going on 225, let's say from the direction of Bedford into Carlisle, when you got near the Bates ice cream stand near Carlisle Center, the speed limit was suddenly dropped from 35 to 25.
Mhm.
And it would be 25 all the way through Carlisle Center. And if you were going down Lowell Road, all the way out past Clark Farm up to a curve where it goes back to 35. Recently, there was a major change in that. So it was 25 for that very long distance of well over a mile. What happened was I was coming in from the Bedford direction. And when I got to Bates Farm, it dropped to 30, not 25. After I got past Bates Farm near the Clark Farm stand, it went up to 35. And then when I get close to the center, like near the library or post office, it dropped to 25. Then when I got through the center on Lowell Road, it popped up to 30 until it got to 35. Now that's a very conscious and complicated change to make. So there must have been some motivation. Something happened. Somebody with influence, I expect, pushed the issue. And as a driver, it makes a lot more sense now. When you're near the farm, the ice cream stand, you should slow down. When you get past it, it's okay to speed up a little, but this is the consistency issue. But then it drops to 25 at the town center, which makes sense, and then gets up to more reasonable speeds for a driver.
Mhm.
But it would be good if staff, if through a contact in Carlisle, you could find out what was the logic behind that? Why was it 25 for such an extensive area for so long, and why did it suddenly change to this new regime? Just to learn a little bit about thinking in another town and how they handle
What
it.
route is that though?
It's 220, if you're coming from Bedford, it's 225 up to Carlisle Center. And then Lowell Road, from Carlisle Center along Lowell Road, back towards Concord. I haven't checked how they changed it on, if you continue on 225 towards Westford, I don't know what they did
Yeah.
there.
You would expect the speed limit would be higher at that point because that gets even more rural
It is,
at
yes.
that point.
And it always did change pretty abruptly. Once you got, if you're on stayed on 225 towards Westford, it did go up quickly
Yep.
after you get past the police station, fire station.
So I think one thing about this whole conversation is that it would be helpful, I think, for the select board to understand what their, and the town manager to understand what their role is in this whole thing. Remind them what they did 8 years ago, and then ask them to determine whether or not it makes sense to have what we have, these different laws that are inconsistent, that are overlaid on one another. Because I personally, I don't think it makes sense. I mean, especially with Old Marlborough Road.
Mhm.
Because you really don't know how fast you're supposed to be going. And the changes come so quickly that it's hard for somebody. I mean, at least I know the road. I go up and down there regularly, right? I'm resident of the town. The issue is somebody who's driving through, who's never been in the town, who doesn't know what's coming, right? You don't really know how fast you're supposed to
Right.
go. So I think it would be good for them to understand how they get involved in this and then ask them to get some recommendations from us and maybe from the police department as well, because they're a player.
Mhm.
And then ask them to get a recommendation from Steve,
Well,
right, from Steve Dukrin and DPW.
there's some value in educating the town government as to what the situation is.
Right.
I think, but only if you're gonna ask them to do something.
Well, my suggestion is use it as an opportunity to, Newburyport and Andover, a few other towns have changed speed limits wholesale, right?
Right.
I'm not sure if Concord's got ready to jump into that pool. Maybe we can use this as a test case. So we say, we're gonna use Old Marlborough Road as the test case because the law changed in terms of revoking.
Okay,
speed
do you
zone.
wanna make a specific proposal?
Yeah, so I would propose that we recommend to the town, to the select board and to the town manager that they use Old Marlborough Road as a test case to revoke speed zoning. The speed zoning on Old Marlborough Road was put in the 50s.
Okay, so I would suggest that you write up a specific proposal,
I absolutely.
sort of with the background. I mean, I don't think we're gonna, yeah, why don't you do that? Let's just start working on that for the purpose of educating.
What specifically is speed zoning?
So speed zoning is a technique to determine the speed limit of a road, which was devised in the late 40s and implemented starting in the late 40s, moving through, the 50s and the 60s. The idea of it was that you would set speed limits on the road based on measured speed of cars and other vehicles, and then taking 85% of the measured speed using a speed gun, okay, and setting that as the speed limit. Okay, so you would sort of take
They actually put one of those tubes down on the road instead of having somebody standing there with a speed gun, and they would leave it there for a week or two.
So
but the idea was you would set the speed limit at just below what people were actually going on a regular basis. And the idea was that that would balance out enforcement versus the actual measured speed. The other thing was, there was a whole thing about in the fifties of speed traps being set in municipalities in various parts of the country as a way of raising revenue. So the idea was to set rational speed limits based on actual vehicle speeds, as opposed to having speed traps, which were just a means of capturing money from tourists. And,
Yeah.
you know, it happened all over the country. It was one of those
Yeah,
wonderful
AAA's
American
on their
phenomena,
cryptics.
right? So, okay, so we have this way of setting speed limits, but first of all, they all were based on road conditions and, you know, land uses that are ancient now. They're 50 and 60 years old, so they don't reflect suburbanization of, you know, our, right? And they also don't reflect safety, because what people actually drive isn't necessarily safe, given the fact that we have a lot more people around, we have a lot more people on the roads. We have crosswalks and all kinds of stuff happening in terms of people using the roads that weren't really considered to be an issue in the fifties and the sixties. It was all about motorists. Remember, I mean, that was the era when the automobile companies and the idea of driving became sort of the paramount.
So that's the whole idea of efficient and quick transfers.
Right,
Mhm.
exactly. I mean, people were thinking about, how do I get from one place to another easily and pleasurably,
Yeah.
right?
But
And we
so-
used to go pleasure driving, that was what we did.
I still.
Yeah, yeah, I was just thinking,
No, I was just thinking that, you know, what determines how fast I drive, you know, regardless of speed limit many times, is just the road design. And so roads are designed for cars to go a certain speed comfortably with the angle of the turns and, you know, whatever. But, you know, what makes me slow down, if I see, you know, there's a lower speed limit, and, you know, I'm not scofflaw, but you know, if it makes no sense to me, I'm not gonna go from 35 to 30 to 35 to 40, you know, just because the signs keep popping up. I'm going to, what's most effective for somebody like me is when there's traffic coming, you know, if
Yeah.
there are speed humps. You know, coming through the center of town, it's very clear, you need to slow down. There's the shift of the lanes. And the problem I see with enforcement is that it's selective. I mean, you're not gonna have somebody positioned there all the time giving out tickets. Waze is very effective at telling you there's a
Mhm.
cop up ahead. You know, so people slow down for that. If they're not up ahead, you know, you go on the Mass Pike, you do 90 miles an hour, nobody's gonna bother you until you see a police car is a mile and a half ahead.
I wouldn't disagree with you. However, it doesn't take into consideration the safety aspect of it.
Right.
Right? So when you're on Old Marlboro Road, you have, you know, a relatively large number of kids going to the middle school. Maybe if you're, you know, being successful, bicyclists coming up and down from the residential neighborhoods going to West Concord Village to go shopping, right? And that's not something that's necessarily obvious to the motorist, right now. And the thing with the changing the speed limit is, it's, at least in my mind, relatively low hanging fruit. When you want to change the infrastructure and put in traffic calming, the cost of doing that goes up in, you know, exponentially, if you think about it.
In a school zone, I think the flashing signs that say you're going too fast are a lot more effective than many other
Yeah.
methods.
And there is a flasher now.
Yeah.
With a speed sign that's inconsistent with it
Right.
100 feet away, doesn't help, I think. So, you know, I think this is the kind of thing where you can take one stretch of road, you can look at it and say, how are we going to try to lick these various concerns that we have and problems? And you can use it as a pilot. I'm big on pilots because, you know, I don't think we all necessarily have everything right. If you announce to people we're gonna do something, get their input. You know, get buy-in from all of the people who are involved with it and say, we're gonna try it. And then you try it and you see what works and you see if there's pushback from people saying this is inconvenient or I don't like it, or it's, you know.
Could you,
Problem
could
with
you,
what
could you
you
start by,
anticipate.
by making just a map showing that stretch of road and what the current speed limits are and what you think would be sensible?
Yeah, plus there's all kinds of history which would go with the
Right,
map.
right, but I think just so we get a consistent understanding of the situation, because I know it changes a lot, but it would be good to see, this is what it is now, this is what I'm suggesting we do in the future. I have one comment on pilots is, can you ever change back?
Well, yeah, you can.
I mean, in a case like that, think about it, you're going from whatever, okay.
I mean,
It's a
the
good-
pilot, I mean, the pilot should have measurement associated
Right,
with
so
it.
you
for
have
the
everybody
impact.
buy in, you have to get the police department to buy in,
I'll
right?
make-
So one thing, I mean, I'd add is, you know, when you say Old Marlboro Road, I just think, okay, so who's gonna be the first person to come up and complain? Upland and Cutgrove. So it's like, you're gonna have, the next step after Marlboro is gonna be all the cut through stokes, Conant, Upland, who have talked about, you know.
So what?
No, I'm just saying that that's gonna be the first step, and I think that there's kind of a logical progression from that. We're talking about Concord Center and kind of the issues there, but it's, I
Well,
think it's a.
it's good.
So just let me finish. I think it's kind of like, it would be great to take one thing and just be very clear. We're only talking about Old Marlboro Road and just kind of put boundaries about it so people don't use it as a reason to add on and say, and then I want this or this, and just try it and then measure it and then have a next step. Because I think that I agree. I think having the select board and the police and us and everybody else talk about Old Marlboro, and it's gonna be, it's like, there are two stakeholders here, groups of stakeholders, it's the people who are cutting through. And it's this, and then it's gonna be the local folks, so it's gonna be interesting to see what the comments are.
Just one comment from my own personal observation of myself and my driving, which is that I've always driven aggressively in terms of speed and just goes back forever. And I noticed that one thing that really affected me was starting to use the Google Maps on my car, in my car. Because it shows me the speed limit. As long as I've put in a route, a place I want to go, it's showing me simultaneously how fast I'm going and what the speed limit is. And that has made me more, because of this inconsistency in posting, I never knew what the speed limit was when I was going through these Massachusetts towns. I never knew, right? And now I can see what it is because they're using the state posted limits or the town limits. I don't know where they get the data, but it seems to be accurate.
And it turns red.
And it really affects my driving.
It does.
You know, when I see the
Yeah.
limits drop to 35, I drop. It's fascinating.
So,
Here's my hands up, just so you know.
But you also learn quickly that 73 on the
Yeah.
Mass Turnpike is
Mark.
fine.
Mark has something.
Mark?
Thank you. Yeah. If other people want to talk first, that's fine with me, but I can add some things.
Sure.
Thanks. I really appreciate what Phil has been saying and what Ellen said before. I do think that investigating automated enforcement and testing out some speed humps are really important things. I can volunteer to try to figure out what the current status in the Massachusetts legislature of automatic enforcement allowance for local communities. I know that it was part of the governor's funding bill for 2026, but I don't know what happened to it. I think, as my understanding is, what it was an initial allowance for towns to try it out with one location of automatic enforcement per 5,000 residents. So Concord would be able to put 3, but I can try to check out before next meeting what's actually going on. With regard to speed humps, in the spring, after the snow's gone, we could definitely try some temporary speed humps somewhere if we had a before and after set of raw data on speeds through there at various days and time of day. And then we'd actually have some data. I do think that, you can't measure accidents that didn't happen, but we don't want to wait for fatalities or serious injury to be our metric. So I do think we have to continuously be advocating for more safety margin. I think that also, like Phil had said, and expanding on that, it would be good to get a clear legal description of what options are for setting speed limits and to get some, I think TAC should look at some raw data on speed on certain roads. Ellen said something about inconsistent posting. Linda Neiman sent me a note this morning saying she couldn't make the meeting, but she wanted to point it out that she and her son had noticed that on Main Street by the main public library, the posted limit is 20 miles an hour one direction and 30 the other. And that might have to do with an inbound, outbound thing, but yeah, you know,
There are several streets like that in town, including Monument Street and Lowell Road.
right. So, Nick, you referred to, I wrote myself a note about, can we get a map of the whole town in terms of what the speed limits are everywhere? And then also where the signs are? You mentioned there might be some state thing, but I think that would be informative for us. And one last thing I wanted to throw out is that, you know, there's different vehicles have different visibility challenges and sizes. And, you know, SUVs are a kind of mini truck, especially some of them are not so mini, and they're more dangerous. But commercial trucks, especially large ones going through town, have additional safety and visibility challenges. So one of the things that I do think we ought to think about is where are the authorized truck routes through town for large trucks? Because I hear complaints from many residents long-term about large trucks using certain small roads. And the you know, I don't see anywhere in Concord a sign, and maybe it's like not fancy enough, but a sign that says truck route. But if truck drivers don't know where they're supposed to go or preferred to go, they may actually increase their speed when they cut through little roads, increasing the danger because they kind of want to get out of there quickly before they're noticed. So I do think that at some point, TAC or the staff need to think about how to encourage trucks to use whatever is safer and take their time going through them. Thanks.
That's a great, I mean, that's great. I talked to people in Conant Street a lot about this. There, like you said, there's not a designated truck or school bus, I'm gonna add route, but school buses and trucks, I've even seen auto carriers on Conant Street, even though it says heavy vehicle exclusion.
I'm curious about Conan Street. I've driven it a few times recently just to check it out because I'm curious as to what the complaint is, because I find that an extremely difficult street to go fast on.
Mhm.
First off, you have to cross the train tracks, which is a big bump.
Mhm.
Then you gotta turn right, then you come to a stop sign in the middle of the street. And there's really only about 100-yard stretch of straight road. So,
Well,
so
I
I'm
think
really curious as to whether the
I can
complaints are
tell you-
about big vehicles or speed or what they're about. Because
The-
if they're about big vehicles, so what?
Oh, wait a minute, I will say, there's an actual heavy vehicle exclusion on that street.
You know there is. Okay,
And
if
it's
that's being
not-
ignored, that's a
Excuse
different
me.
issue.
So that's the
Are you
question.
taking comments from people at this time, or are you gonna take those? at
Oh,
the end?
Cynthia can talk, Cynthia's Conant Street.
Well, okay, well, just a moment. You done? Then?
Yeah, I'm just saying, I think it's, you know, one of the things is to make it slow, but I think that, I mean, Cynthia is the better person here, but it's the volume of traffic, but it's also that specifically school buses, Concord Municipal Light Plant, auto, I mean, those huge auto travel, and, you know, 16-wheelers, I've seen them on Conant Street, and it's not enforced unless a resident yells and the police come
Okay.
and sit it right out,
Yeah, I didn't mention that. There is a
Yeah.
2.5-ton limit on the street.
and nobody pays attention.
That should be respected. But, Cynthia?
Yeah, I'll add, Nick, I think you may be a little insensitive there, and I think, you know, we're all trying to be very sensitive to, you know, safety and traffic and the environment we live in, and whether it's consistent with the type of neighborhood we were expecting when we moved in. So, you know, just want to make sure tax tone and attitude continue to reflect an appropriate attitude towards that.
I think the thing is, I haven't seen a clear definition of what the problem is. I've heard rumors and people saying random things about Conan Street. So I guess I just don't have a good understanding of what the issues are for the residents. That's all.
I think someone gave us some data. I'm blanking on his name.
Dan Stapleton
Yes.
gave you, can I jump in or should I wait for public comment? I live on Conant Street.
While someone else is speaking, if you could wait a moment.
I'm happy to cede the floor.
But Cynthia, you were talking. Did you have more?
Yeah, oh, I have a lot more. Mariana,
I'm sorry, I
That was
lost track.
Mariana talking.
Was Mariana talking?
I'm all set.
sorry. Okay, go
Thank
ahead,
you.
Cynthia.
Mariana, thank you so much about your comments, specifically about maybe some comments that were made prior. The idea that, so I live on Conant Street. We are one of 4 streets in town that has a heavy commercial vehicle exclusion, which is not adhered to, not enforced, and the signage is actually on Conant Street, not on the 2 feeder streets. Dan Stapleton submitted a 10-page report, and I submitted a 1-page report at the last public comment meeting about asking for specific things. I don't know if this is the place where I should be putting my energy, or if it should be engineering, or if it should be the police, or it should be the select board, but I've lived on Conant Street for 25 years. And we also have a documented 1983 meeting that the police were at with the same problems and the same complaints. So here's one problem. Signage for our truck exclusion is not on Main Street and it's not on Lawsbrook Road. And that was the first thing that I said in my 1-page document that I handed out to perhaps some of you, definitely the police, definitely engineering, definitely public works at the last big public forum. We need signage about our truck exclusion that is clear, visible, and then on Lawsbrook Road and on Main Street from both directions, so truck drivers can see that. If we have any hope of then through enforcement with the police, that trucks that are just cutting through Conant Street, that don't have any business on Conant Street, adhere to the law. Okay, that's the first thing. Regarding traffic volume, I'm going to refer to speeds. We do have 2 speeds on our street. For 80% of our street, it's 20 miles an hour. Then it shifts to 30. And it is easy for trucks or any vehicle to go and get up speed because they do it. As someone who lives on Conant Street, it is amazing how fast people drive. I would say that to the idea that kids and the elderly are vulnerable, no, people are vulnerable to trucks and to pedestrian and to driving regular old vehicles. People are all vulnerable. My street is not just a cut-through street, it is also a major walking street. So I'm really hoping that we're not going to be waiting for an accident like there was on Upland or in Newburyport that you referred to really start dealing with this. I'd also like to suggest that it would be great if town vehicles and buses actually go the stated speed limit on Conant Street, because they don't. And that would be a huge a huge thing. But traffic volume on Conant Street, we get approximately between 3,500 and 4,000 trips per day. And that's been documented by Concord Police. When in fact, the classification through Mass DOT for our street says we should be getting no more than 700 to 800 trips per day on our street. So we've submitted a lot of information to the TAC. And I really would hope that that something can change. And I don't know if I should be talking to engineering or the police. I would like your guidance on that in regard to signage on Main Street and on Lawsbrook Road. New signage so truck drivers see they cannot turn down Conant Street. I have a lot more, but I'll stop.
Thank you. Thank you, Cynthia.
Cynthia, could I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
You mentioned that there was a study done with the traffic volumes. Could you tell me when that was done and where that information lives? Or if you have a copy, maybe send it over.
I have a copy which we can forward. Jacob's cut-through study,
Okay, all right. That was part of
forward
the
it.
Jacob.
Although-
right? Is that right, Cynthia?
Conant Street was not part of the Jacobs cut-through study. Oh, Conant Street was? Okay. Okay, we've submitted that information, but I know that the police have, you know, whenever they put out those signage, like you can't do that. They're the ones that collect the data on how much traffic volume there is on Conant Street. So that's from the police that have told us that number.
Okay,
The
thank you.
police plugged in.
Let's see, who else?
Gina Stark.
Gina Stark? Where'd you go?
Right.
She's there.
Here I am. Hi,
Oh, there
can you
you
hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, Gina Stark, Thoreau, 512 Thoreau Street in Concord. I just want to say I'm really happy to hear this discussion. I'm happy to hear that there's going to be a proposal made to the select board. I would also just kind of like to point out, I certainly hear Cynthia's frustrations. And there's definitely a lot of confusion, I think, in the community about what we need to do and what we should do to kind of, you know, support you and these efforts. And I would like to throw out there that I think that one of the easiest ways to get the speed limits under control is to just make it not possible for cars to go that fast. I mean, you narrow the roads to an appropriate speed limit, taking into consideration pedestrian traffic, and you put in speed tables. And I don't know that signage is the solution to the problem. And I would just like to throw out there that should you need a guinea pig, there is this small section of highly walked and used segment of road on Thoreau Street with no sidewalk. That would be an easy case study. And I'm sure I could get you some support and volunteers to help that happen. But again, I don't know that more signage is the solution, but I'm certainly glad that we are talking about a solution. That's all.
I think, just a response, thank you for your comments, and, I think in general, this committee is strongly supportive of traffic calming measures and, you know, changing the roadways in ways that help control the speed. One of the major issues there that Phil mentioned is cost, and in town right now, there's a huge resistance to any additional expenses that you will find in both the select board and the finance committee. And if you're a strong advocate for improvements that are going to cost money, I urge you to attend finance committee meetings and speak up. Okay, because that is where the control is, the finance committee and the select board. And, you know, people bring their concerns here and we're very much in support of some of these infrastructure improvements, but I don't think that those involved in governments all understand the urgency of the need. Thank you. Okay, any other speakers? Jeff Collins.
Thanks, everybody. Just a quick comment going back to the discussion of the charge. I think that the conversation was interesting to listen into and included a bunch of different expertise that would certainly be helpful in this area. One fine scale comment, as you mentioned, landscape designer. I think landscape architect would probably more precisely capture the skills desired. But I wonder if in the charge it would be valuable to express that list not as a basket of skills that would be helpful as an individual new candidate is considered, but sort of as a, not designating specific seats on the TAC, but saying that the TAC through time should always have these skills. So, you know, as the town manager considers somebody leaving the committee and a new potential member, emphasis is placed on, oh, if we're losing that landscape architecture expertise, do we try to lean in that direction? Or the bike and ped mobility expertise, do we try to replace that those skills instead of saying, oh, now we have whatever 3 urban planners, which again, individually could be great people, but the TAC could change over time and sort of be weaker in one area that's important. So if that was expressed as, you know, elements that always should be present on the committee instead of a long laundry list, that would be helpful.
Yes, yeah, diversity of those experiences, yes.
Thank you.
Ned Perry,
Thanks.
question.
Ned Perry?
Good morning. Thank you for all your work. 4 brief comments. I'll try and make them brief. I think your 229 responses is a very, very low response rate for a town with 13,000 voters. I'm also very that's number one. Number 2, I'm disappointed with the time it's taking Sandtech, who is a very expensive consultant, to issue its draft report. Number 3, in your charge description, I would include something like knowledge or broad knowledge of Concord, geography, schools, trails, roads. And 4th, being a farm boy who stamped down stuff in silos when I was young, Concord is very used to having silos. And I would like to have you think about better either representation from Public Works, Natural Resources, Trails Committee, or better liaison. I realize we may have skipped over that this time around, but with you reporting to the select board and to the town manager, you're just in a silo, as many of our town committees are. And I would hope that you would have better communications with Natural Resources, but particularly Public Works. Thank you very much for the time.
Okay, anyone else? Dan Stapleton?
Yes, hi. This is Dan Stapleton, 20 Conant Street. Full disclosure, I'm married to Cynthia Katz, so just wanted to follow up on that comment a little bit more broadly. So if the purpose of the committee is to advise the select board and perhaps the town manager, you know, I would suggest that you add to your objectives this issue of traffic volume, which is really separate from modes of transportation. It's also very separate from even the infrastructure aspects. So I think, you know, Cynthia kind of talked about it very specifically on Conant, but it's an issue that applies broadly to the town. And, you know, from my perspective, it's an emerging issue. And in a few years, I think it's going to become one of the dominant transportation issues. And the issue is fairly straightforward. It's that The town system of roadways has a certain capacity for supporting traffic, and we're starting to experience traffic that exceeds that capacity. And that is experienced somewhat, locally within different specific roadways. So certainly Conant is a roadway, but overall, it does apply broadly to all of Concord, and it's really a management issue. But it needs to start with establishing clear sort of objectives and goals. So I don't know if I kind of got the idea across there. It does touch on a lot of specific points. And I would also note, I think you can do subcommittees if you want. So if you want to deal with a specific objective under a subcommittee, so you could consider that might be a good topic for a dedicated subcommittee.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Anyone else?
Betsy.
I think Betsy.
All right, so I'm Betsy Olson Mikowski, 1741 Wedgewood Common, and we are Mothers Out Front is considering sponsoring a warrant article, and I have the wording real quick. Let me just read that to you. I can get to that screen. Sorry. Give me a second. Okay, so it would be a committee safety permit. So the proposal would be all future paving and road infrastructure projects must be designed to prioritize the safety of the most physically vulnerable users of those project areas. If this project criteria is not met according to the Transportation Advisory Board or Public Works Commission, the project will be redesigned until the prioritization of the safety of the most physically vulnerable town residents is clearly demonstrated. So I wanted to make a public comment about that, and just so it's on tax radar, and maybe we can discuss it more after the meeting. I unfortunately have to go, but I can email that wording.
Yes,
Thank
if you
you.
would, please. Thank you.
Okay.
Karen Smith?
Hi, Karen Smith, 66 Upland Road. I just want to echo a couple of things that have been talked about. So one is the topic of removing the speed zoning signs so that they're consistent. The speed is consistent with the 25 mile an hour in thickly settled areas within Concord. So this is what Phil spent some time talking about. I agree with Gina that it's not a silver bullet. It's not going to solve the speeding problem in time, but it is a step. Removing those extraneous speed limit signs, that are well above a safe limit on roads that are clearly safe only at 25 miles an hour is an important step. It's an easy step, and it's a low cost step. We're spending a lot of time talking about the money involved in making infrastructure changes, and that's legitimate, but this is a change that can be made at very, very low cost. Additionally, I want to echo what Cynthia and Dan were highlighting in terms of the traffic volume being a problem in town. The volume is a problem in and of itself, but it's an even more significant problem because a majority of those people are cutting through and they are going fast. They are using these cut through routes because there is not traffic calming. There are not stop signs. There are not stoplights. They can go fast, and they do. We paid for a study several years ago to analyze this situation, and some very good recommendations were made. COVID happened. The director of public works was let go, and that study has just sat there. So at this point, we've wasted $70,000 in town because we've not moved forward with those recommendations, use the information that was gathered. And the reality is today, the situation is only worse and more dangerous than it was when that study was done in 2019. So I would urge you to look at that Jacob study and encourage Public Works to move forward with the implementations recommended in that study. And again, it's signage, it's a low-cost solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Okay,
Yeah, just say one thing, just
Yeah.
in response to what Karen said, just to clarify. So the idea of changing the signs and the speed limits requires administrative steps to be taken by the select board and the town manager. It's more than just removing the signs from the poles.
okay.
So just so that everybody's clear about it.
Yeah, and I would add that cut through is an incredibly complicated issue and that I think we're talking about Concord, the state, Route 2, MCI Concord, and that, you know, these are all public roads, whether you like it or not. And I think I think this is a classic example of a systems thinking where, you know, Route 2 is what is causing people to use all these cut through, and Waze is making it worse. Waze suggests this Upland and Conant as the right route. So I think I would say there's no easy solution to the traffic volume. I think it's a critical issue, but I wouldn't, I think it's
Public
really
transit
hard.
is the solution.
Yeah, getting people, yeah,
Well,
exactly.
Getting people out of cars is.
Yeah, right. Well, that's a whole nother issue.
Another topic. So
Okay. right.
that was on the agenda for today, but it's already 11 o'clock, so I
But
think we'll just
obviously it's
defer
really.
that. So,
Do we have another agenda item?
Do we have anybody else that wants to talk?
no, we're done. Okay, no more comments. Comment, please. Elisa.
I just had one thing is that, I know there was discussion of, looking at reviewing an update from Public Works on the Baker Avenue intersection. I just received a memo, before this meeting, and I'm sorry I didn't see it until actually during this meeting, because I had other meetings before this
Yeah,
meeting.
yeah.
But I have forwarded it to you, a memo update on that, intersection improvement on Baker Avenue. And
Okay.
I think, the town engineer provides a pretty, good update on that. I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you.
Okay, that's great.
Okay, liaison observer comments. We have our liaison.
Terry's there.
Terry's
Select board member.
She's our former liaison.
Yeah.
I think it's Paul, right?
Paul.
It's Paul.
Yeah,
Paul
Paul's
Bull.
there.
Is Paul here?
No.
No, okay, we'll skip that. And we've done public comments, so one thing we neglected is to have someone be the clerk today to take the minutes, so it'll have to be done from the thing. Anyone volunteer?
Oh, I've got
Okay, thank you all.
copious notes and.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Adjourn the meeting at
Okay.
11:02.